Hey guys, welcome back. Reese and Ben here at Pursuing the Nightly Arts. We guys hope you had a really awesome and safe New Year's holiday. This will be the first video of 2018. So unfortunately we are not outside today doing anything harness-wise because the weather is really crummy. So
32 degrees and raining.
Yeah, so it's really sloppy. So don't be running around doing that with our turn shoes. Very slippery, and to be honest, we don't want to deal with the maintenance of oiling up all the harnesses and stuff. So today we thought we'd do a little different video. We have gotten requests from the start of the channel about seeing us assemble and put on arming our harnesses on. So Ben's going to assist me today getting my armor, and then afterwards I'm going to help him get into his armor. So as we go through this, you'll see the steps from start to finish of how armor is put on, and you'll see throughout the video the various different ways of assembling it compared to from my harness to Ben's harness. So being mine's more suited for foot combat and Ben's is more suited for equestrian combat. So you'll see the differences of how those are put on. So
we'll also show some of the different features. We're going to show some of the insides of the armor too, the articulation, and show the differences. And we'll get to see some of the new mods that I've done to my harness recently, getting it closer to the effigy and the original that I'm working from.
Yeah, so sure, pretty cool. And you guys will also see inside of my saloon door back plates as well as my fold and my articulation. So we're showing that more in detail. So we'll get started with the greaves first.
Alright, we start at the feet, and since we do not have sabatons at this time, we're starting with the case greave. This is Reese's right greave, since he does not need a left, conveniently. They're one of the most complicated shapes of armor because of the different directions, contours, different compound curves that go on, and the most complicated shape on the human body is your calf ankle area.
You notice there's a strap at the top here. This has it rest on the top of my calf. We made this greave on our own. It's very complicated to get it right, so I will be getting a custom fit one by an armor in the future, but for the time being it suits its purpose.
Alright, the next piece we have is Reese's cuisse and pollane. This is floating, has a wrapper plate.
So this is suspended by leather, so it allows me to freely move my knee inside. So we felt that was beneficial, considering that I do retreat and step forward with my right foot. So I had this for years, didn't really have an issue. It worked pretty good. So we're going to put this on now. So the next part to finish this out is I need to stand up, and then we'll have these laces feed through the leather here, the leg harness. So this is the, I'd like to stress the importance of having a good fitting garment, because when you put this on, it should feel as if that you don't feel anything from the weight of these.
Also to note, the side should be mounted to the pivot point of your hip. This keeps the leg harness so that it does not pull tighter as you move your leg.
Then we do a little test fit. So before we move my leg, maybe focus on my knee. Go all this direction.
Alright, next we have Reese's arm harness. He has floating articulation to allow for a lot of freedom of movement. And his van brace has an internal hinge. The inside van plate on the van brace goes inside of the outside plate to create a tight and compressible fit so he can get pressure on his forearm. That part is very important for the actual pointing of the arm harness, because when we point the arm harness we're going to pull tension on it between his forearm and the points, and that's going to place his arm harness in exactly the right place so that he has full mobility and no restriction. As I pull these tight, it pulls his doublet tight, it pulls his arm harness up, and positions everything exactly where it needs to be on his arm.
That's good. Alright, so same thing with the left one.
We found with Reese's arm harness that we can leave his straps all done. You can slip them on like a pair of sleeves. And the tension on the van brace and the tension on the points is all he really needs to secure the arm harness properly.
You'll notice too on the van brace here, I've got this lip of metal. So this not only allows it to where it's more comfortable for me, to allow me to not hit an edge against my arm, but also it adds a sort of a lip to catch weapons. Alright, this part here is going to be my standard, or gorget as it's commonly called. This is speculation. What survives is you have male standard, and we can speculate that it had leather underneath. And if you look inside here, I've got what's called a trauma plate. It's a bit of steel here, so it protects my throat or my windpipe from getting crushed. So when Ben and I do these techniques and stuff, especially with poleaxe, we try to be as safe as possible. So this is part historical, part modern safety. So this also helps with the cuirass will rest on my collarbones. I have some bony collarbones, so this helps the cuirass rest on there as well, so a little bit extra comfort. So we'll put that on next. So Ben is just adding these 2 straps and buckles you feed through. I'll turn around in a moment, you can see better. And I've got my laces he's feeding through the holes here for my spalders. Here, got my trauma plate. Okay.
Next are the Reese's spalders. These have the attached Bessicues. These are articulated with leathers and rivets in the back. That keeps the lanes from separating too far during use.
Alright, next is my cuirass. So this is this style here is typical of what you see in the early 15th century. I've got my scale fall here. I've got my Lobos breastplate, and if you flip this around, I've got the saloon door back plates. So I've got typical standard hinges on the side here, and this opens up in the back. And I've got a series of rivets fastened to leather for a skirt, and I have some cord through here to attach the scales. So I will be adding some more scales for coverage. That's why I have leather poking at the bottom of it. But I simply will start off with the straps here, the shoulder straps, and then we'll get the further straps in the back. So one thing I like to mention is that in the artwork we based this off of, we saw the buckles were on the left-hand side, and that's to prevent, we think, for someone being right-handed just to go like that and undo the strap. So we often get questions on our comments in our videos about what this V design is. So this deal is called a rib stop. So it's intended to thwart thrusts, either from lances or edged weapons. So Ben's going to demonstrate real quick just how this works. So this will deflect the shots away from my throat and go past my shoulder.
Next we have Reese's bassinet. It is a fantastic shape, and it's running a nice thick padded liner under the Aventel. This helps protect his neck and shoulder gaps. It makes it harder to get a point into his body. Inside we have a suspension liner that is tied to the correct tension to keep it suspended. We do have some modern padding in case there's contact with the skull of the helm during a hard hit to avoid or help reduce injury. The way to put this on is best to almost hand it to him and let him slide it on himself, because you can get stuck going through the Aventel.
So, like that.
Next part of the gauntlets, which are pretty self-explanatory as far as function.
So I often get asked how my visibility with this type of visor is. I will say it's actually very good. The grill ocularia, it's kind of nice because when I look at that sort of post in the front, my eyes look around it. So, and it's actually more forward on my eyes, so my peripheral vision is actually quite good with this thing on. And you'll see I have a series of holes on both sides. This is more suited for foot combat than it is mounted combat. The snout is really great for deflecting thrusts, i.e. when lances or arrows and whatnot. So, but in the early 15th century, you did start seeing them in artwork having holes on both sides. So, very good visibility. Alright guys, so now I'm going to help Ben get suited up in his harness. So we're starting again with the greaves, the lower legs. So one thing we didn't mention was we start with the lower legs first because based on a 15th century manuscript, they talk about how you should start with the feet going upwards. All right, now we're going to be getting Ben suited up in harness. So one thing we didn't mention before was we start with the feet going up. The misconception is that if you were to start with the upper body, that his weight of the armor will topple him over and he'd fall over. That's not the case at all. So with medieval armor, pieces had to overlap each other. So to offer protection allowed the body to move. So first we'd start with the sabatons, which is the foot armor. Fortunately, Ben and I don't have sabatons right now. We're working towards that, so we're going to start with the greave. So Ben's greave is a lot more better shaped than mine. This is made by a custom armor. So this is shaped to Ben's lower leg, and here he's got a couple of different features than compared to mine. He's got some internal straps. So. It's got internal hinges as well. And he's also got this feature here. So the staple here, this will be the strap for the demi-greave. So that'll loop around through here and that'll keep it in place. So it's important to keep the armor where you want it to go. You don't want it to have a shift or anything like that. So, because this stuff fits down to the millimeter. So if anything gets offset, it won't allow the body to move correctly. So we're gonna open this guy up. So one thing too I want to mention is that Ben has some wraps on his ankle. We know this in some historical sources, they would do this to not have it chafe or rub on the wearer. Good fitted greaves, you see it's very nicely shaped to him. These are one of the more difficult pieces to make in armor and make it get it right. So you see it's very close fitted to Ben's leg. Alright, next we are going to be fastening Ben's leg harness. So this harness is based off of the Cherbourg 18 harness, which is most of Ben's harness, and Ben has added a couple extra details. So down here below the demi-greave we've got mail. So back here it's fastened, got a leather strap stitched into place and riveted through. So you see this in the Italian effigies and artwork all the time. We're still trying to figure out what that was used for. It could have been a stylistic thing or more a functional thing, but our guess is that it's more function than anything. So it could be a way to prevent thrust from going up in between the demi-greave and into the leg. So being that Ben's harness is equestrian, more suited for mounted combat than foot combat. So you'll see here, separate cuisse here, very form-fitted. This is how armor should be shaped to wear. So.
I found that the straps on the back of the thigh and above the back of your knee need to be fairly loose. They're mainly to keep the armor from separating from the leg. If they're too tight, when you cinch your armor up, they'll bite into your leg and you won't really get proper tension.
It's important to get these guys tight because this needs to fit correctly with Ben's knee. So if this drops down even by a little bit, it will prevent him from using his articulation.
You can see an example of that as this knee moves freely. When this knee's too low, then I start hitting a binding point right here. At this point, you can probably see that my legs pull into my doublet while my doublet is girdled tight on my waist. It is tighter than my natural waist, so that it cannot pull down. This is what actually holds my leg harness up, so their weight is not on my shoulders.
All right, next is Ben's male skirt. So a popular defense in the medieval period was to wear a skirt of mail to protect the groin and upper leg.
I also wear this skirt on my natural waist. This keeps it from riding down, and it also provides some protection underneath my fold. So if my fold gets lifted, I have mail on my lower abdomen as well.
All right, so now we're doing Ben's arm harness. So this guy here, you'll see it's very nicely shaped, correctly shaped to Ben's arm, just like the greave we saw before. Has a nice rolled edge to prevent the edge of it cutting you or being uncomfortable, but also it can potentially stop a point. So you'll see Ben's is articulated. He's got a series of lames to his arm harness here, and you'll see they're very tightly made to not have as much of a gap to get a point through.
I like to bend my elbow when he points mine on, so it pulls my elbow into the pocket.
Now we're doing the right one. You'll see here, in order to fit correctly, I've got to clear the fabric, and this needs to snap on the inside, the lower one. Alright, so we're going to be putting on Ben's standard. Again, this would have mail over it. That's in the works. Same as mine. He's got it's leather. Fasten my couple buckles in the back, and I've got a trauma plate in the center to protect his windpipe. So, this through here. So you'll see that this takes quite a lot of time to put on. So this is the importance of having squires, servants. So sometimes knight men in armor would have up to 3 squires to assist him in getting armed up. So and they do so long before the battle lines were being drawn. So alright, so this is Ben's cuirass. This one is based also on the Cherbourg S18 harness. You see it's a lot different than mine. He's got a globose breastplate, same as mine before, but he's got this placard plate below. So this is added defense, being that the Italians like to fight on horseback, mounted. They often fought with lances. This is 2 layers of defense. Going down, he's got a hoop vault which is different than my scale fall. This is a more solid defense. And then through here, he's got a male skirt riveted to the bottom fault, the lame. So it's attached much like the demi-greave. So the Italians liked having 2 layers of mail. So this is insurance for anything penetrating through. So we'll have this over on top of Ben's male skirt. And then the back plate. And this guy joins the side. Because in this case, in this configuration, we've got straps.
This the front plate overlaps the back plate over the top, so a strike coming in does not get underneath of the plates, so it'll skip off and go away, which is an important feature.
So now we get the cuirass on. So as I mentioned before, he's got 2 layers of mail for protecting his groin and upper leg. So what's great in that is that if a point were to penetrate, it's got to go through this plus that one. And of course, these has a ripstop as well, plus this lip here. So again, this will protect from any thrust from below with lances or weapons, same with the shoulder, as well as this will actually, the armlet, his helmet, will rest on top of here, and it's a place for it to rest on the cuirass. So we'll touch on that later. Alright, now we got Ben's pauldrons. So these are much larger shoulder defense compared to my Spalders. So mine are ideal for fighting on foot. These here are ideal for fighting on mounted combat. So you'll see that it articulates this what it needs to do. But you'll notice that there's this cutout here, and that is for the use of lances. So we'll demonstrate that here in a moment. But fasten this guy on. Important thing to mention, in Fiore, they have the same style of armor being shown in the treatises, and you often see them taking the pauldrons off for fighting on foot, or having the right one removed. The thing with these pauldrons are they're quite heavy, so to keep your arms up, it's quite exhausting, as Ben will attest to. Alright, now this is Ben's left pauldron. So you notice this one doesn't have the cutout here, the notch. So you'll notice here, if you look closely, has lots of scratches. This is because I'm trying to aim for his left armpit. So these do a very good job of protecting his armpit from thrust. Real quick thing to notice, you notice how these are more forward. This clears the ripstop from getting hit. If you had this closer fitted, it would bind up here and he couldn't move his arms forward. Now to demonstrate the asymmetrical pauldrons, it's this way. So he's got a lance. This allows it to clear, be a lot thicker than this one. So that's if the pauldron were this way, he wouldn't be able to couch it properly. So, and one thing to note Another thing to note too is that this harness would have had a lance rest. That is an upgrade that Ben will do in the future, but there's actually a piece, sort of like a hook, that the lance will rest onto, and it has a couple features that are kind of neat. So one, the lance will rest on there, so it's not you're not holding with your shoulders and your arm, tiring you out. But also, a lot of people think that it's a way for the shock absorption to not go directly to your shoulder. It actually spreads through the entire cuirass. So one of the last pieces of the armor is going to be his armet. So this is an early style of armet for the early 15th century, and you'll notice it looks quite different. So what's really particularly cool with this one is that it's got a couple things to it. So for defense, so we've got an avatail here, so 6mm rings. This allow to protect the shoulders and the throat. We think it's really suitable for catching points. So a thrust were to come in, actually catch the point and bunch up, prevent it from getting underneath the throat or the shoulder. So another feature of this armet, if you look at the style of we call it picket fence. So this is quite unique in this style. In the Fiore treatise, you actually see they're really big on wrestling. The Italians are. So one method of defense with that is to have this picket fence. You actually see in the original that these guys are actually quite sharp. So this will prevent me from gripping on here and doing what we call a sun pointer. So preventing me from moving the head. I've cut myself on this just from handling it, and so has Ben. So now this guy will open up here in the front, the center, like so. All right. So Ben will see the cheek plates and stuff come out, and this solid steel in the back. So we'll simply open this up, then we'll drop his head through there, and we'll collapse the cheek pieces. So we've got some spring tension in here. This will lock the cheek places together in the center. And then we've got a clasp that hooks on the mail. So you will have to prevent any kind of gap through here. Also, what I mentioned before was the cuirass has a lip underneath here. The armet will rest right on top over this lip. And what's nice with that is it allows it to freely pivot. And it's also a solid defense. So if any blows were to come above or whatnot, all the energy would transfer through his head through his cuirass, not just strictly through his head. So this visor here with this particular armet does not survive with the original. So the Tribert 18 does not have a visor. We discussed in our previous video covering our harnesses, we based this one off of the Fiore treatise. So here Ben, with the visor open, has excellent visibility, excellent breathing, and even when he closes the visor down, he has good visibility and good breathing. And you'll notice these notches through here. He's actually looking in between the picket fence in the front there. So, and with it down, you can see movement of my hands. He can rotate his head as needed, look up, look down, all that. So these are hourglass gauntlets, appropriate for the period. Though this style of harness would have had a different style of gauntlet that would have been more common with it, where it has a plate, comes to a point up through here, protecting more of the knuckles. So that is a future purchase that Ben will do to make this more correct for this style harness. All right, guys. So Ben and I just wrapped up getting the harnesses off. So we hope you guys learned a thing or two about how our particular harnesses are fitted and stuff to us. You saw that it does take quite a lot of time, so we hope you guys appreciate all the effort we get into doing this. Even just the task of getting dressed takes some time and effort. So I actually enjoy quite a lot of helping people out get armored up, because I actually learn about their harnesses that I otherwise wouldn't have. So by assembling Ben's harness, I know his. I get a better idea of his range of motion with it, and sort of his limits and his openings, which is extremely important. So
you go figure out where the overlaps are, how far they overlap, how much room you have to work around. So I know how far his scale fall goes down to his legs. So I know how far I need to get under there to get to the top of his thigh. All that kind of stuff. It definitely gives you a little bit of an advantage when fighting them. Of course, since they have the same advantage, you're kind of uneven playing field, so to speak. But so you don't rely on your armor quite as much.
yeah,
You have to rely on your skill and your fooling and controlling where your opponent is in the center line at all times.
yeah. So like we were showing with my harness is more articulated. So articulation adds more openings and weak points. So, but I have more range of motion, and compared to Ben's harness, he's got more solid plates, bigger plates. So getting familiar with that level of motion and how much coverage he gets, I can use that to my advantage and get around it. So,
and as you see in part of the video there, that when I move my arms all the way over my head and in circles, I do occasionally catch a pauldron into my cuirass, which stops my arm from being able to move, and I have to deal with getting that unstuck before I can operate normally. And that could be potentially the end of your game.
yeah.
If you get stuck like that in trying to pull a technique that involves your hands over your head, and puts me at a disadvantage in that respect.
Yeah, so we hope we demonstrated that good enough for you guys. We've had a lot of questions about the various pieces of armor, how it fits and how it's assembled and stuff like that. So we hope that this provides a good resource for people that are interested in seeing how this is assembled. So we hope to get back out there when the weather's cooperating with us, and we'll be doing some more techniques for you guys. We got lots of things in the works, playing with some more Le Jeu de la Hache, the play of the axe. We got some gladiatorial plays, and we got a review coming up for some of the weapons. So we've got this sword here. This is appropriate for the early 15th century. Is from which?
Kingston Arms.
Kingston Arms. So we'll be putting this guy through its paces and see if it's adequate for harness fishing or harness fighting. So, and guys, we've got a Patreon page, so if you guys like what we're doing and want to support us, by all means go by the page and click support. We got lots of content in store for you guys in the future, as well as we got a giveaway right now for a custom shirt. So drop by there, share it with your friends, and as always, if you like this sort of thing, feel free to comment down below, share it with your friends, and we'll see you guys next video. Take care.